Story time, The Man in the Mud. What if I told you that one of the most powerful lessons about mercy was taught not in a cathedral, not in a classroom, but in a desert by a man who lived in silence? Picture this. A line of palm trees swaying under the sun, the sound of sandals scraping against the sand, and a monastery in the middle of the Egyptian desert. No Wi-Fi, no microphones, just men living and praying, trying to become light in a dark world. But even in monasteries, just like in our cities, our offices, our families, there are moments of failure, because holiness doesn't cancel humanity. One day, a brother fell, not on the road, not in a battle, but in temptation. They said he had fallen into lechery. The rumor spread like wildfire through the desert wind. The others, shocked, scandalized, decided to punish him. They drove him out of the monastery, and humiliated, trembling, the brother ran toward the cave of an old man, Abba Anthony. Now, Abba Anthony was not just any monk. He was the monk, the one whose silence thundered through centuries. When people spoke his name, they spoke of holiness itself. The young brother, covered in dust and shame, arrived breathless at Anthony's cave. He fell to the ground, crying and saying, "Father, they've condemned me, but I did nothing of what they say." Moments later, the monks from the other monastery came. Their steps were heavy. You could feel the judgment in the air, thick, hot, merciless. They began to rebuke the young man. "You've dishonored your vows. You've brought shame on the brotherhood. You've failed God." But right there, in that moment, something sacred happened. Another elder, Abba Pafnutius, also called Kephalas, was present. He had listened quietly, eyes half closed, and then he said a story. "I once saw," he said, "a man standing at the edge of a river, his legs stuck in the mud up to his knees, and others came to help him. But instead of pulling him out, they pushed him in deeper, up to his neck." The desert fell silent. The hot wind stopped. The monks froze, realizing what he meant. Abba Anthony looked at Paphnutius and said, "This is a real man, one who can heal and save souls." The monks understood. They fell on their faces before the brother they had condemned and begged his forgiveness. That scene took place 1600 years ago, but it could happen today, in a classroom, on social media, even in a parish. Because we live in an age obsessed with exposure. One mistake, one rumor, one screenshot, and the crowd gathers to throw stones. We've replaced monasteries with comment sections. The Desert Fathers had no microphones, but they knew human hearts better than any algorithm. They understood that judgment doesn't purify, it poisons. Every time we think we're helping, by shaming, by condemning, by pushing someone lower, we are just repeating that sin by the river, pushing the man in the mud deeper instead of lifting him out. Imagine it today. A young man confesses an addiction. A young woman shares a moment of weakness. Instead of finding help, they find headlines, gossip, screenshots, whispers. The same mud, different river. We are so quick to punish what we barely understand, because it's easier to accuse than to accompany, easier to expose than to embrace, easier to be right than to be merciful. But Abba Anthony teaches us something revolutionary. True strength is not in condemning the sinner, it's in healing the wound. The prophet Isaiah said, "A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench." That's God's approach to weak, not breaking, but restoring. And Christ himself said, to the crowd ready to stone the woman caught in adultery. He who is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. He didn't deny the sin. He revealed something deeper, that truth without love becomes a weapon. Let me ask you, when you see someone fall in your family, in your community, even in church, what do you do? Do you rush to expose them or to hold them? Because mercy is not weakness. Mercy is warfare against pride, against hypocrisy, against the illusion that we are better than others. Saint Isaac the Syrian wrote, "Never say that God is just. If he were just, you would be lost. Call him instead merciful." The monks thought they were defending purity, but in that moment they were crucifying mercy. Here's where the story turns. When Abba Pafnutius spoke, he didn't attack them. He told a story, simple, earthy, visual. Because stories slip past defenses that arguments can't touch. He made them see themselves. That's what parables do. They turn the mirror toward us. That's why Christ spoke in parables, so that the truth would enter the heart disguised as a story, until the soul says, "Wait, that's me." Imagine scrolling through your feed. You see a public scandal. The instinct rises. Comment, share, condemn. What if instead you paused and thought, is this man in the mud? And am I about to push him deeper? Or imagine a friend who's fallen away from faith. Maybe you've said, "I can't believe he did that." But what if you said, "I can't let him stay there"? You see, holiness is not distance from sinners. Holiness is compassion for them. St. John Climacus said, "The judge is to usurp the authority of God." Let's be honest, we've all been that brother. Maybe not in the same sin, but in the same shame. All of us have known what it means to be misunderstood, accused, or isolated. And all of us have also been the crowd, the ones who talk, who judge, who think we're saving the monastery while wounding a soul. Both live inside us, the fallen and the judge. And Christ calls both to repentance. Judgment feels safe. It feeds the ego. But every time we condemn someone else, a part of our soul, of our own soul hardens. Saint Dorotheus of Gaza said, "As smoke drives away bees, so judgment drives away grace." Think about that. Every time you criticize someone behind their back, grace leaps quietly through the door of your heart. And then we wonder why our prayers feel dry. Our society thrives on outrage. Entire industries are built on scandal. But outrage doesn't heal. It divides, isolates, and destroys. When mercy disappears, all that's left is noise. And the tragedy is even the guilty find no redemption, because we've forgotten how to forgive. In the desert story, that brother would have been lost if not for two men, one who told a parable, another who listened to it. That's how salvation begins, not with a lecture, but with listening. When Abba Anthony said, "This is a real man who can heal and save souls," he revealed what true leadership looks like. A real man, a real Christian, is not one who points fingers, but one who offers hands. You can almost see the scene. The monks drop their eyes, the wind begins to move again, and in the silence they bow, not before the sin, but before the mystery of mercy. They came to punish, they left forgiven, because when you lift someone up, you rise too. The story didn't end in shame. It ended in healing. That's the gospel. Failure met by forgiveness. Wounds met by wisdom. Judgment transformed into compassion. And here's the truth. You don't need to live in a desert to learn it. The mud is everywhere. So is grace. Every person you meet is fighting to get free from something. Your words can be the hand that pulls them up or the weight that drags them down. So next time you see someone in the mud, online, at work, in your family, remember Abba Pafnutius' vision by the river. Don't push them deeper. Bend down, reach out and lift, because that's what Christ did for us. While we were still in the mud, he descended not to condemn but to save. And when he rose, he carried the mud on his shoulders, turned it into glory. The desert fathers would tell you the holiest ground is not the mountaintop. It is the muddy bank where you choose to love instead of judge. That's where heaven begins. That's where salvation happens. That's where the real man, the real Christian, stands. So, let's stand here too, because in the end, that's the only way to heal and save souls. God bless you. See you next time. Peace.